Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of RJ's Lives from the desert to the valley and all the ships at sea. How are you? Happy Sunday morning. We're going to be talking about some knives. We got some nice people here in the chat box already. We got Jeroen Voss and Sean and Terry's Knives and Man Stuff and Pepper Dingo and El Phoenix and Byron Kennedy. I know he's going to have to watch this on playback. Awesome that his son just retired from the U.S. Air Force with 20 plus years of service. So a big salute to him and thank you for your service. Absolutely fantastic. As a former ground pounder, I love the Air Force. Keep those bad guys off us. So, anyways, hey, Singing Toad, I see you're here. EDC is here. Fantastic. As you see our panel, we have Stephen from Patty's Potato Peelers, Matt from Slip Joint Sawyer, John from Thrifty Kniffy, and our special guest, Michael from Rasputin's Castle.
Not that special.
Oh, you are today. Welcome. We're gonna make you feel special, even if you're not. How's that?
Okay.
So tell us, Michael, how did you come up with the idea of naming your channel Rasputin's Castle? What's the significance of being a fan of the Mad Monk that's unkillable and all that other good stuff?
Yeah, he's just a fascinating character, but one, I wanted something original, and two, although almost all my content is knives, and I love slip joint knives, that's my passion, but I want to do other things too. So I want to do, camping videos, fishing videos, venture videos. And so I didn't want to name it like Mike's Knives, right? Because I want to do other things with the channel. But what happened in between is I got old and I can't go out and do all those things. So all I do is knives anyhow. So that's where I came up with the name. Is just I like he's an intriguing character, and it gave me some leeway in the channel. It's not just knives. I can do other things.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, so Rasputin himself was a very fascinating figure in history. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you like the slip joint knives, and that's what made me notice your channel, because you like a lot of the same knives I do.
Yeah.
I really enjoy a lot of your different content, especially this last one that you did on jackknives. I thought was very fascinating because that's a type of knife that I really like, and several patterns kind of encompass the jackknife, pattern, with multiple blades or a single blade, opening on one side. What are your favorite jackknives?
Man, I tell you what, I think the sow belly is my all-time favorite, and those big sow bellies.
The show just went south now.
Yeah,
sow belly lovers rejoice.
They're just designed to be used as the serpentine patterns. You can hold them and apply the blade properly, and then that's probably my favorite pattern. I really like the big patterns, like the equal ends and the scout knives and those kind of things. And a toothpick, right? Texas toothpick or powder horn. And I fell in love with that the first time I said, I'd never seen one before. About 10 years ago, I saw one, and growing up, I'd just never seen one or never recorded.
Right.
So, man, that long, sexy Turkish kind of clip blade, that's just awesome. And they feel good. If you ever had one in your hand, they just fit naturally in your hand. It's a great, how to use.
It's not a pattern, I have to say, that I'm fond of that much. I've tried using it. I like the larger ones, but the medium to small, I'm not keen on. They always seem as if they're too weak to me, but the larger ones, like the 4-inch to 5-inch, look like a good substantial knife.
Yeah, when you get as you lengthen that blade out, you're putting more stress on the pivot point.
Mm.
And so that's why a lot of the knives you see are in that 3.5 inch range. Once you go out to 4 inches, now you're really putting some stress. And if you look at any knife that has 4 or 5 inches of a blade, it's really delicate, unless the handle is really substantial.
But it's not a knife I would think of as hard use. I would think of it more as a fishing knife, doing a bit of gutting a fish and cleaning the fish out, taking off. It would be more of that use that I would take. I wouldn't think of using it as a hard use knife.
That's probably the number one pattern that was used in the 16 and 1700s. And not only that, 4 inches was small. So the original knives, what we would consider a pocket knife, what people used every day, were 4 to 6 inches, sometimes as much as 7 inches. And they were often that serpentine pattern, very often kind of a banana shaped. And that's what they use, these big knives, because you could use them for a lot of things. You could choke up and use.
The Europeans would use more on the Spanish side, the Navajas, which are a little bit more of a substantial blade. And that's the one that I would go for, to be honest with you. If I was going for that more heavy use, just trying to find my Navajas. I put them somewhere here. Can't remember where I put them. No, that's a wee small one. Where is it? It's gone.
I've only got one. It's a really tiny one. It's like 3.5 inches.
I have a fairly good sized one.
That's what your wife says, but
no. That's the one that I like, the Navaja. It's a very good, strong back spring and a really good, thick, usable blade.
Here,
very
bring
sturdy.
it full screen here.
Yeah.
So you can show that off.
It is very, very basic. It's just a plastic handle on this one. But the blade shape is absolutely beautiful. And you still have that sort of powder horn here, whatever you want to call it, but very, very comfortable in hand. I have a large hand, and that's just beautiful knife.
What do you think of that, Matt?
Yeah,
he just stepped away for a second.
Oh, okay.
I think the Navaja style knives are pretty cool. I only have one toothpick, which is one of the tiny toothpicks from Rough Rider.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have one of the fishing knives, that's an older one. So you have the toothpick style handle, but it also has like the fish scaler and the cap lifter hook disgorger tool with it, which is not really a toothpick per se, but it's basically classified, I guess, as a fish knife versus a toothpick, but it's toothpick pattern, or looks like one anyways.
I would love to see manufacturers bring up some of those old patterns there that Stephen's showing you, the Navaja patterns. They really fit well in your hand. They were meant for heavy use.
Yeah.
And, I think Rosecraft blades, they did a good thing with the Appalachian Jack. That's kind of the pattern they were looking for. And it has some similarities with those older knives, but I'd really like to see them get closer, more exact to the pattern.
It's funny. I've got a couple of knives coming from Rosecraft, a couple of new blade shapes, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to get them. So they should be here in a week or two. I think they sent them this week. But this is a small sort of toothpick, a small toothpick in a Navaja style. Now this has a lock on it, one of these little back locks here, which is a fantastic little object. But it is a super little knife, full covers again. But this is an older version of the one that I just showed you.
Is it French or Spanish?
That's Spanish.
Yeah. A lot of them were made by the French. Did you know that?
Oh, they do. And I mean, the French then sort of went a completely different route. I think they went more into where am I? Let me just get, a couple of the French ones. They went into these more fancy. Now this is in horn
Yeah.
as well. Lovely horn. They went more into this. They cut off the end of but you still had a good substantial blade,
Yeah.
and it's nicely finished. But
Yeah,
even
with the French, the pattern is reflective of the area in which it was produced. Right.
Yeah.
So there's like 7-8 different patterns the French did.
Oh,
And based upon, the area they were produced, they were popular for one reason or another.
there's another. That's a French one,
Oh yeah.
and that's a nice little knife. Nice little. I think this is more. It would be more of a working class. It doesn't have the fancy back, but it has a good substantial blade.
So that's a pattern that has a lot. If you look in America, you have that Louisiana territory. It was run by the French, all the way up to Michigan, from New Orleans all the way up to Michigan. And the French fur trappers used a lot of that pattern right there. And a little different than the older ones, but not much.
Yeah. We're going to talk later on about modern versus new. That's the sort of conversations I love to have about other patterns and how they're transferred around the world and who picked up on them and changed them and adapted them. And probably the nice thing about America is they got patterns from all over the world and then adapted them to suit what they wanted. And so that's why the choice in America is much wider than over here in the UK. I mean, we have lots of patterns, but very few became successful. Just, the Barlows and things like that were successful. We don't have anything. Well, I can't think of anything British that would have a toothpick type blade. Can you, Matt?
Not off the top of my head, I don't think so.
I can't
British
think
knives
of
are
one.
pretty much Barlows or jackknives. That's pretty much it.
And I'm sure there must be patterns out there, and hopefully the likes of these new makers.
Nice.
That's lovely there. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yep. Let's take a look at that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, this is
Nice.
the Miguel Ferraccio, and this is the Italian Suevo Lingazza, I think they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
And it's kind of got that same styling that you guys are mentioning, the class style.
And again, I think it's like they say, there is no new knives. They just changed the pattern about.
Right. Yeah, that and the materials.
Yeah.
But,
The one thing I don't like about the French and the Spanish is they blade wrap doesn't seem to bother them, because when you close the knife and let it snap, you'll blunt the tip every time. They don't count that as a problem, which I suppose in reality it isn't. But if you're a knife collector, you don't want to be sharpening a knife every time. I forget constantly to close them by hand.
Yeah. Well, nowadays I think there may not be made as well as some other offerings, but I'm not sure that's true in the past. If you go back to the 1800s, I don't know,
Right.
but my feeling is it's not. I've got a really old one, and it's finely made Italian knife. So I think that's something that kind of lost along the way, and they're just regaining, with the new knife companies coming out of Italy, like Fox and others.
Yeah.
They're pretty nice. That
Some of the
Mazarin,
new knives are beautiful. I've actually got one to show later on here that I just got this week, and it's beautifully made, absolutely, and it's a slip joint, and it's beautiful. It's not particularly new. I think it was a couple of years ago, but it's beautiful. Viper they've really come out with some lovely stuff recently.
Yeah, I just showed one on Friday. It's a remarkable little knife. I mean, it's not. I don't think it'll get a lot of views because it's a little pen knife, and people tend not to like them. But for what it is, it's just a really remarkable knife. And it had M390 steel on it, titanium scales.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a Fox Vulpes, I think it was.
Yeah.
Vulpes. And just really well made. And the thing was $40. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the materials in it, and it was $40
Like,
retail. That's what I got at retail.
for a small knife with M390, my goodness, that's such a useful blade to have if you just want to carry a wee small knife, especially if you've got a pair of shorts or something on. absolutely fantastic. I mean, talking about toothpicks, we done years ago. There was a whole crowd of us, and we all took a toothpick for a week, and we used it for everything that we could use it for. I can
Right.
honestly say, on that whole week, there was probably 2 jobs in my life that I needed something bigger. You know what I mean? So, again,
Right.
what your lifestyle is makes a difference in what you can and can't get away with and carry.
That's
Um,
true. That's true. And Tobias Gibson loves the toothpick
Oh.
pattern. That's probably his favorite pattern, and he has a great collection of them. But Jerome made a good comment here in the chat box about the powder horn or toothpick pattern being more popular in Southern Europe versus the sodbuster pattern in Northern Europe. And
Yeah.
I think the sodbuster didn't that develop in
Germany.
Germany? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Or
that's probably
one of them closely aligned countries in that side.
right. Yeah, that more central / northern part of Europe. Yeah.
Well,
So I think that's probably true. 'cause everything-
I suppose,
Well, go ahead.
I suppose for people who are in the chat and they're reading it and they're not used to it, Germany, Sologen in Germany, is probably one of the, it is one of the oldest places in Europe where knife making sort of took off. Same as Sheffield in England, Sologen is the German equivalent, and they have made knives for hundreds of years. So,
Right.
there's
Thousands,
some history going back.
thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands of years.
It's
It
lovely
has
to
to
go back.
do with water. You needed water, you
Yeah.
needed coal, and you needed access to iron, right? So either the iron, which was, locally in Sheffield, but actually Sheffield used more imported iron than the local iron because it was superior. Swedish and Indian
Yep.
iron.
They used Swedish for years upon years.
Yeah. So that's what had a lot to do with it.
Because
America was a lot different.
the Swedish learned that the compressing the iron and hitting it with a hammer made the structure finer. And it was as simple as that. They sort of developed that where, if you pound the iron, it'll spread out the molecules. If that's the right word. The molecules, it makes a finer steel, which was easy sharpened compared to the old ones.
Yeah, it has to do also with contaminants, how
Yeah.
pure it was when it came out of the ground. And that's one of the things that took so long to make steel. They're cooking it, and all that sledge that comes to the top, they would scoop out.
Yeah.
And those are the type of things that would make a blade fail. And one of the reasons why English steel was so popular in the United States and in the world, right? So German companies actually imported English steel for that reason. And a lot of it just simply boiled down to contaminants, right?
Uh-huh.
So the cast steel was a lot cleaner, which allowed it to be a lot stronger, right? It equated to strength because you didn't have those little gaps in there.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. You don't want those occlusions and shuts and all that other
Right.
stuff because that will definitely weaken a blade or give it a weak spot. That over time, eventually, you're going to snap that blade there.
Which is why steel's over. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Stephen.
The Swedish steel now, the 14C28N, I reckon is a fantastic steel. I know there's
Yes.
1227, but I mean, I don't see the point of paying for 1227 when it costs no more to get 14C28N. And I think
Right.
it's just a super budget steel.
It
So
is.
easy to sharpen, easy to keep. It's just gorgeous.
I agree 100% on that.
I saw a video recently where do you guys know what the heck is that skill? MagnaCut. You guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the
You
guy
talking
who
about the Laren video?
yeah,
John's very familiar with it.
Yeah, 'cause he was
So-
talking about the 4C28 being such a fantastic razor steel. So
right,
really good for
exactly.
the fine
He
edge.
was saying that would be his recommendation for a good all around steel.
Right.
Because it's right there, sweet spot.
I was a fan of it before I ever saw him say that. But yeah, that was
Yeah, me too.
You see how young that guy is? Is that incredible?
it's crazy.
Man,
Isn't that crazy?
Well, of course, he had a head start, because his dad's a metallurgist too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's got a doctorate. He's written 2 books. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy's
Oh yeah, the
well
guy,
beyond his years.
He
You know?
is definitely.
I would have him on the show, but I'd have to take a class first.
I bet you he would do it.
I bet you.
Yeah.
he
I
would
bet
too.
you he would do it.
I'll have to ask him. I'll reach out to him.
He
Then
seems
again,
like a really good guy.
Yeah,
is.
he
He is.
he does.
And he can simplify it when he wants to. He can bring it down to where we're going to understand.
Yeah, that's
Oh, so
the
you can
important
make
part.
it paddy level, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like get it right down to
oh
party level.
man, did you have to go there? Did you have to go there?
Always.
I struggle with this stuff too.
The sniper.
But yeah, I
Very
mean, he is changing the face of blade steels now, because
Well,
I've been using the Magna Cut now for solid 3 months and carrying it and using it every day, and it's flipping fantastic. It
The
is
thing
brilliant.
that I think, sorry to step on your comment there, Stephen, but I think the nice thing about him being the age that he is, and he's developed Magna Cut now.
Yeah,
And what do you think he's going to develop in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now? It's going to be superior to that, and maybe leave that in the dust.
and here's an even better way. Have you seen how much Magna Cut has dropped in price, and that they're actually putting it on knives that are medium price knives? You can get Magna Cut. That's
$100.
the most important.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Is I'm hoping that as it trickles down in price, we're going to get it to where it's under $100 for a knife with Magna Cut, and that's going to be nice.
I actually think there is one just under 100. Go ahead, Michael.
Baxter's Blade has a great comment. He asks if Magna Cut is hard to sharpen, and do you ever have to sharpen it?
Of course,
It's exactly the same as about S35 VN to sharpen.
yeah.
No harder at all, and it holds an edge for, let's say, double the time. Just for double the time that S35 VN. It's worth upgrading, because the prices now with S35 VN and Magna Cut, you can get knives in both at the same price. So I would go for the Magna Cut without a shadow now. I thought it was a lot of hype in the beginning, but it's not. It's fantastic.
Yep. Well, it's the thing is most stainless steels you can't get as hard as you can like 3V, M4, that type of carbon steel product. And that's been the problem with the stainless steels. And with Magna Cut, you can take that up to 64 on the RSC, and that's the beauty of it, because now you've got a stainless steel that's as hard as MV or 3V, and what that equates to is a very long lasting edge, right? That's the thing.
I'll be honest. I got one of the Bexar Bears, and it's only rock welded 61, which is it's the lowest part of the scale. It should be 61 to 65, I think, is the range for optimal use. So 61's about as low as they would take it. And I have to say, I have not needed to sharpen mine. It literally strops back, and it lasts days before I have to even strop it. I've actually passed it on to Justin to let him have a go, just to get somebody else's opinion, because I'm over the moon with it, I have to say.
Yeah, I love super steels. I got into them about 5 years ago, and that's the remarkable thing. In the example I put out there, of course, is my Recon 1. So that's S35VN, and bought that thing for like $100. It's a big old knife. It's not for everybody, but I do a lot of hard stuff. And at one point, I used that knife. I had to break some banding on a case, and I slipped that thing underneath that metal banding and just pulled up on that thing, and it just popped that banding. And if you look at that knife, I did a video on it. There are no nicks, dents, anything in that blade, and that's the beauty of a super steel. And it really sold me on super steels right there.
I mean,
Terry's Knives has a good question. He wanted to know, do we think super steel is necessary for a slip joint knife? And my answer is that it's not necessary, but
No.
it's nice if you prefer to use one. It would be nice to have that option to get one like that. But
D
What do you
D2 is
guys-
where it's at. D2,
Yeah.
and they can
is where
start
it's
there.
at. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. D2 is all you need.
Well, yeah. I mean, all you need is a 1095, or a
Yeah.
440. That'll work. That'll work just fine. But like I said, it's nice to. It would be nice to have the option for something like that.
yeah, I
You
think
would
if you're
think-
going to use a knife an awful lot, especially for slicing boxes or doing that sort of work, slicing, if you can afford it, get the better steel. But if you can't,
Yeah.
you're not losing out. You're just getting maybe a lesser steel. You have to sharpen more, and that's the bit that I keep coming to. If you learn how to sharpen, it doesn't matter what steel you've got, you can get
Right.
through anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And Baxter says more options the better.
Yeah,
And Scott says he's about D2'd out, Slippy. So there you go.
Impossible. Impossible.
well,
That's
so-
like saying you don't want to buy any more knives.
And Tony's Pony says if you want to cut metal, get some snips.
I didn't have any snips. It's not something I recommend, right?
Right.
That's abuse of a knife. I admit that, but I had nothing else, and I needed to cut this band, and
And
so
you
I
knew
said,
that
"Okay, I'm going to do it." And
this
man, I
knife
tell
is
you what,
supposed
it
to be
just
harder
popped
than
right
that,
into the
so.
problem. Yeah,
I just got this Hinder literally last week now, and it's an S35 VN. And everybody
Mhm.
I'd heard say that Hinder makes his S35 VN a bit soft. What a load of cows wallop I just proved that to be. Because I took this out to the woods yesterday, and I'm telling you, I battered this on a piece of wood. On camera, you'll see it. But there was, in the video we cut, I've done even more of it. But I was literally thrashing on a bit of hardwood, not off a tree. I brought wood with me, and I was bashing on it. And this was still razor sharp after a whole afternoon of bashing it and cutting wood, which is not really made for. It's not a wood knife. It's too thick. But by gosh, this is brilliant. Brought it back home, stropped it this afternoon when I come in here. Bang. Absolutely. Just as sharp as you like. So I don't think that's soft. That wouldn't tell me that it's soft with the amount of straight on banging I done on a bit of seasoned wood.
Yeah.
So don't believe everything you read in the papers. They're not always true.
Well, it's
Sometimes
two
in our
different things,
community,
right?
sometimes
It's
in our
two different-
community, you get somebody says something, and then somebody joins on, and then it gets right the way round. And I mean,
Yeah.
that is absolutely fantastic. S35 VN wouldn't need
It's
any more.
two different things, though, Stephen. Right? So it depends what you're talking about when you talk about soft. So the harder the edge is, the longer the edge will last. But when you talk about when they play with that RC hardness, when they play with that a little, what they're doing is what you're talking about is toughness there. And so if they make it a little softer, they make it a little springy. And so that's why you can chop on something and that blade won't break. So Hinderer is kind of, what he's looking at, what do I want this knife to do and what can people do with it? And if I
Yeah.
make it a little softer, it'll be a little tougher because it won't break. So the harder you make that blade, that's when you get into trouble about blades breaking. Like when guys are batoning and they break a blade, it's too hard, it's too brittle. So you want a knife that's batoning through things to be a little flexible, a little springy, right? Like a spring steel.
Yeah.
And that's probably what they're talking about, a little softer, why it goes a little less than the maximum on it.
Yeah, but sort of the follow up on, and I agree with you. I used the wrong word probably, but as an all round knife, I've used this on cutting cardboard, and I cut cardboard for about 15 minutes consistently. I had a whole stack of boxes from Amazon, and I cut them all up with this here. And again, I didn't even need to touch it up afterwards. And that was thick cardboard, thin cardboard, cardboard with glue bits in it. I just had boxes and boxes. Absolutely mullered it and no problem. So to me, I think you're right. Hinder does make it so that the knife's good all round rather than a specific hardness, cutting, slicing. But the geometry as well. I mean, this isn't the slippy slicer. This is the slicer brand. So it's a thinner blade, which lets me do cardboard and wood. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
You're kind of moving into the traditional versus slip joint there.
Yep, we can start that now.
I'm trying to wait
We
for the
might-
up
we-
in the
it's-
corner.
it's
He
a
hasn't
great-
said a word.
It's a great segue. I
Yeah.
think Matt's sleeping on the job, but
I'm awake. I'm trying to be Tom and Mimo all in one.
I know. I appreciate you helping out. Since Tom's absent today, Matt has taken over kind of the duties of helping to be a moderator and watching the chat box along with me. We're trying to keep all you guys involved here. Patty, there has been several requests for you not to do a belly dance today. So just know that that's happened. There you go. John's putting stuff in the tip jar for Matt. And but yeah, blade geometry and heat treat make all the difference. That's true. That is true. And yes, Tony's Pony says there's a degree of snobbery about super steels. If you want to beat a knife, get something rechargeable or gas powered. That works too.
Yeah.
RJ, put some of the comments on the screen so Paddy can see them, but he can't do two things at once.
I don't want him to have to read and talk at the same time, Matt. It's okay.
It's you don't need the super steel. There's no doubt about it, especially in a slip joint. In a pocket knife, you're just using cut boxes, rope, regular medium EDC tasks. 1095 is just fine. Whatever, 4116, whatever steel you're using, it's good. But the super steel, like Steven said, is the advantage of the super steel is if you're that guy who goes in and cuts a lot of boxes, you can go a whole week without even worrying about sharpening your knife. That's the beauty of it. And I don't think you really need a super steel in a pocket knife, but it all depends on what you're looking for. If you are that guy who's really that's what you do every day, 8 hours a day. You're cutting boxes, you're cutting straps. Maybe you're a plumber or landscaping, you're cutting that corrugated plastic in landscaping, then maybe you think about a super steel and a pocket knife. Otherwise, you don't really need it.
Yeah, and if I was doing that kind of work all the time, I would be using a utility knife, like the Milwaukee Fastback or any other knife that's a razor blade knife. Those are for, at least in my mind, that's what I would use for that kind of hard work. Yep, exactly. A good old Stanley knife. They work perfect for that.
There you go.
That's
Get
what I call the beluga whale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is, but yeah, those things, they are the, if you're doing what I consider, a hard use knife. And then if it is something I'm going to use a lot of hard use for, I definitely would use a knife that has a steel that's, maybe not as good, that you'd have to sharpen more, but a lot of your more budget knives, they're going to use a budget steel, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to take my knife. Yeah, exactly. If you're 8 hours a day cutting boxes, you're probably on minimum wage. Yeah. So you're going to use either a knife they provide, or you're going to, buy something that's on the less expensive side, because you're going to be mistreating that knife for sure. I wonder what happened to Steven, though. I hope he comes
He
back.
got bored.
I hope not. He was very active with the conversation.
He was till you started talking, and then he took off.
Yeah, I know. I hope I didn't.
I don't know. I'm just a guess. I don't want to put it out there, but
Wow. Okay.
That kind of humor, brother. Keep it up.
Yep. So moderns versus traditionals. Let's go. I mean, we know where Matt stands. Matt's always said that he is. Yeah, I guess I did, Jeroen. I guess I upset him. Oh, thank you, William. Uh, his contribution to Patty not doing a shirtless belly dance. That's funny. But I know Matt is giving up on modern knives altogether. He says he's a traditional guy. I use both. I like both, but traditionals definitely have my heart. John, I think, is kind of the same way, that you don't really have anything against them, but you would prefer a traditional if you're going to carry a knife. And where do you stand, Michael?
Well, I love them both, right? So I carry a modern tactical folder, whenever I'm out, about 80% of the time. But about 5 years ago, I guess I watched a video. Maybe it was you. I don't even remember. But was a guy talking about, how traditionals, there's a place for them. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to carry one for a week. And it's amazing how often you use them,
Yeah.
So, with the modern folder, you got this big knife and big old single blade, and you can only fit that thing in so many places,
Right.
But with the traditional knife, a lot smaller, can get that thing in to smaller locations, and it has a place. Like I've used these to pull fuses out.
Right.
How about seeing a sow belly? I'd love to see Michael sow belly.
You got your sow belly handy?
I don't.
Okay.
I only have a couple. I love them, but you can't find those sow bellies too often.
No.
And especially vintage ones, like the newer ones, you can find.
Yeah.
But I'll go grab a few of those and bring them back to you guys. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, to interrupt the show, but I'd like to.
Well, I brought
okay.
one. I brought one. I can show it real quick while he goes and gets that. I know that you've seen this one before, but it's still a good one. And that is this Rough Rider tater skin trapper, the sow belly trapper.
Absolutely.
And really nice pull on that one. It is very comfortable in hand, and this is a very nice shape. I agree with you that this one, at least they did the shape right versus the Tobacco Road series. And then this one has a really nice spade blade on it. I really like how much belly this one has. Yeah, so quit rolling your eyes, Matt. I saw that. But I
love the sow belly trapper. It's just I wish they put a different blade shape on it.
Well, it is different from the long straight.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
basically,
here,
what I want is I want the sow belly trapper handle with a single blade. That's what I want.
Oh, they make those. They make those for sure. So here, I will show you. So here's the tater skin, and here is your traditional one. So you prefer the one on top. I know you do.
What's the one on top?
This is the Rough Rider tater skin sow belly trapper.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So this is their burlap micarta. Really nice. Here's the clip blade. Very, very comfortable knife to hold.
Yeah, I like the sort of the weight of the sow belly trapper. It got a bit more chunk to it than the normal sow belly.
Yeah. It's almost not real. It's almost a skinning blade on there than a spade blade.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. So I got a case, and I just grabbed a few. So that's my Tony Bowes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's nice.
And the thing I like about them, I like how they drop down so much, and it just provides a good grip for you, no matter which side that you're using. It's made to whittle for one thing, but it's just a good user blade.
Yeah.
And then this is a roper, I think.
Yep.
Nice, sexy blade on
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And really a nice knife. Yeah. And I tried out this Cold Steel. I don't know whether you
Oh yeah.
guys,
Yep.
actually a little better quality than the roper. So,
Yep.
And one guy, I think I showed this on a video. One guy said, "Yeah, I could just get a Rough Rider, but this is really a better quality than a Rough Rider right here. A little better quality."
Reminds me of an older Rough Rider. They were
Yeah.
made a little better back then.
Yeah, this is a really good knife.
Yep.
And I just bought it to see, what Cold Steel was doing with them.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, a little better.
Yeah.
Does it justify the $9 jump to $36?
Probably not.
No,
Probably not.
it doesn't.
No,
But
no.
it is a little better quality.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I picked up all those Cold Steel. They made 3 of them, the blue and the
Yeah.
yellow handles. Yeah,
Pretty cool.
pretty nice.
I think that's my favorite design.
You got a friend in me, Michael.
Who? Oh, Matt.
No, me, because
I'm
like I don't know if you know the running joke, but it's like I'm the sow belly guy. I've got like probably I don't know over 60 of them. So
Really?
yeah,
You have vintage ones?
not vintage ones. One of my
Hard
like
to
you
find.
just showed the case or got the 6.5 bone stag, same
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
I just saw one on eBay like that I was looking at. They're awesome.
I hate this camera. There we go. But yeah, I mean, I just fell in love with it. I've got so many of them, and I mean, Gene, I just kind of echo everything you say about the comfort of it, the usability, all the great features of it. Here's a Cold Steel in the blue.
That's cool. I like that blue.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a really nice blue. They did a really good job with the color match on it.
Yeah,
I'd really
nicely
like to
even
get
both
a-
sides.
Really tight.
I'd like to get a vintage one, but man, I tell you what, they're expensive.
Yeah,
You
they
can
are
find
not
them
cheap.
in good
There's-
shape.
There's the yellow one.
They didn't make a lot of them.
No.
John, those are bone, right?
There's one you can't find anymore for some reason. I don't know why.
Imperial.
It's a cheap one. It's a cheap one, like 3CR or something like that. But like they're the ones that some of the companies that were making them, they're not even making them anymore. I don't understand it.
Is that a Smith and Wesson or
No, this is an Imperial in the cracked ice.
Well, yeah, but that's after 2007. So is it a Stuart Taylor or
No, this is like
2018?
probably in the last 2 years. I want to say.
That's Smith and Wesson.
Okay.
So I got an Imperial. What the heck did I get? I don't know. I think 3-blade Stockman. I think just to see what Smith and Wesson was doing with the Imperial,
Right.
and it was pretty nice. Coming out of China, but it was pretty nice knife.
There's a Boker.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's got the real stag on it.
Look at that.
That's
Yeah.
a chunky boy.
That's nice.
So
That's awesome.
I mean, you can find them, but they just aren't very prevalent, compared to a lot of patterns. I don't know why. I guess they just aren't as popular. But that's okay.
I agree. You're okay.
As long as they make enough for you to buy, that's all that matters. Have it out long enough for John to get a copy, and then they can stop.
There's
After
another item.
after your review, then they stop.
All right. That Winchester series that they've done.
Oh yeah, let's take a look at that.
That yeah. That was a
Yeah.
The gun stock jigging as
Yeah,
well,
it's
right?
got that's the 3-spring design. It's actually a Whittler, I guess, if you want to be technical about it.
Who made that one?
This,
It's
I want to say it was Parker, right, or whatever
okay.
it was.
But it's Winchester branded.
Yeah,
Nice.
Are you sure that's Parker?
I
'Cause
can't remember honestly. It's the one with the gray box that came out maybe about 6 years ago.
Okay, it's not Parker then. That's I think Buck was making Winchesters 6 years ago.
Honestly.
Camillus made them up until they went out of business.
Yeah, it just has Winchester on the tang. It doesn't, it doesn't provide anything. It's Chinese made. I can tell you that much.
Good looking knife though, man.
Yeah, it's got
Look at that checkering on there.
Yeah.
That is
and
awesome. I like how
blade-
that. I like how that you have the diamond checker in it and then the smooth bone.
Right, kind of breaks
Yeah,
it up a little bit.
That
Yeah,
ribbon
yeah.
effect, that ribbon effect.
But they made the whole series of these in different patterns. I just don't recall what they called this series, but they came in like a gray cigar shaped size box.
Mhm.
So maybe if anybody in the chat knows what they called that series, I just don't
I've never
remember it
seen
off the
one.
top of my
It's
head.
awesome.
I mean, I'm not one for a shield, but that bullet shield's pretty attractive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm worried about Steven though. I'm hoping that he'll be able to rejoin us.
His
I
internet
didn't
probably went
offend them
out.
in any way.
Hey, Big J. No, I don't think we offended him. He's got tougher skin than that.
Yeah, he's a bit like me. He's unoffendable.
Boy, I am.
Trust me, I've tried.
Yeah, John's tried many, many times. It's just like, John, you can say what you want. I don't care.
Oh, come on. I'm nice to you compared to how I could be, I suppose.
Yeah, you could be a total jackass, but you're all right, I guess.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
I'm British. I say it as it is, and that's it. I don't sugarcoat anything.
Do you like
Oh,
shields? No, they're garbage.
No, they're trash.
There you go.
There we
they
go.
tried
That's
to
a
do
proper
away-
soundbite.
They tried to do away with them again and again, and the crazy thing is you're starting to see them on modern folders.
Yeah.
Okay. We have an update from Singing Toad. Paddy
Okay.
said in the Discord his internet is down.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He
All
just
right.
got bored. That's what it is.
Yeah. He just decided
oh,
I can't be bothered with this.
Well,
I knew
I
that
was so-
excuse. Yeah, these guys. Yeah, I'm not interested.
Well,
The internet's down.
he's talked about your channel before and what a fan he is. And here he is, he's back. And I knew he was so excited to be able to talk to you today. I was like, this is terrible that your internet went down. Well, I'm glad you got back, Stephen. Welcome.
Yeah, I couldn't get onto Google, YouTube, nothing. But what I've done was over and switched everything off in the main room, put it
Yeah.
back on again, and it's worked. So
Oh,
lucky
that's,
it was simple.
that's
If it's any
fantastic.
more than turn off, turn on, I can't do it.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you're back because
And me.
I hated the fact that your internet went down and we had Michael as a guest, and I knew you'd be excited to talk to him because I know you're a big fan. Yeah,
A
so-
big fan from the very
Yes.
first video I've seen of his. yeah.
Exactly. He's been promoting your channel as one of his favorite for quite a long
Oh.
time.
Yeah.
So I was glad to have you on, Michael. And go ahead, Patty. Since you missed, you want to catch up? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'll catch up and see what the theme is.
We're still talking about modern versus traditional, and we were just talking about how some people like Matt prefer a knife with no shield, and that shields are actually starting to show up on some modern knives.
Yeah, I like shields. Now, it depends on what knife, but I do like shields. But it's very specific to the knife. I don't like when you have a shield and then writing on the bolster as well. It's either or for me. But
Right.
if the shield's tasty, it doesn't really affect the knife. Do you know what I mean? So I'd
Right.
be more interested in the function rather than whether it looks good.
I do
That
like
makes sense.
the looks of a good shield, and if a shield is unique, I like that as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes the simple ones are just as good as something that's ornate. but I do like both. So it's
I think it must be an incredibly popular thing because you take case, people collect case for the shields alone, never mind what the knife is. So it's just another part of the hobby, like everything else. We are so fortunate in the traditional lovers that we get that wide variety of shields, no shields, names, no names. You can pick and choose.
The thing about case knives, and let me bring one up. What is so, I think, cool about a case knife? So I have the large Stockman here. So you can collect this pattern, the large Stockmans. You could collect this family of knives, as they call it, with just this American shield. Then you have the stamps on the blade itself, so you can collect these. Let me see if I can get this. So you have the carbon steel, and it's got that. But then also on the main blade, you have the dating system. So you have guys that want a specific set of dots or specific years and stuff like that. So they're looking for the script and all this other stuff. So there's so many facets of just this one brand of knife to collect. And it's just, to me, that makes it them a fascinating company to collect on.
To be honest with you, traditional and modern, I like them both. It doesn't really matter. I really do like them both. And I like experimenting. Like, I had so much fun yesterday using this. Out of all the knives that I had with me, this is the one that I just loved using. So there's a lock-in knife that, and I have the slip joint version of this.
Oh, yeah.
But that for a beastie boy is just amazing.
Yes. And one of the things I've always talked about with the modern knives is did you have something, Matt? Phil the Roughneck. Oh, I didn't even see that, but I saw he put on his Cool Rays, so I was like, I don't know what's
the Rouge Neck. Rouge Neck.
What's that?
Roughneck.
Roughneck.
Rouge Neck.
Is that Cajun?
A little bit of Cajun, a little bit of Alabama.
Like a sharp dressed man.
Yep, there you go. So what's going on there, Phil?
Well, let me tell you a couple things.
All right.
About shields and Chinese knives.
All right. Well, here, let me bring you up into full screen. Show us. Give us a dissertation there, Phil.
You see, Chinese knives have got 420 J2 steel on them.
Uh-huh.
And that's the worst kind of steel you can buy.
Is it now?
Let me tell you.
Okay, tell me.
You buy a Chinese knife, you might as well just be killing the job in America. Take it away from American jobs.
I need to mute myself a minute. I'm sorry.
He's going to make me laugh. I get breaking character here.
Don't break
Take
the
it
fourth
away
wall.
from American lives. Have you seen this guy, Thrifty Kniffy? He had a video of a buck made in China. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know they had such a thing. What has Buck done? Why have they started producing knives over there? They not understand that communist steel is horrible.
Now,
420 J2 is like butter knife after you've sharpened it. I don't understand why anyone would want that stuff. So don't buy Chinese bucks, please. Do you feel what I'm saying? This here's Phil the Roughneck, or Roughneck, I mean.
Phil, so what you're saying is we need to make knives great again.
Well, MACA is a group I am associated with. Make American knives again. That's it. So, peace out. We'll see you next time. And
Peace
remember, support America. See you later.
Wow.
We just got to get him doing the head movement as well and playing the piano.
What's amazing about that is he had to go off view for 5 minutes to change his sunglasses, basically.
You had to find them first. You had to find them. I just hope they were not made in China. Those Chinese sunglasses, they're not the same.
Who was it this week in our sort of group of friends that actually bought a buck with MagnaCut on it? A small,
that was John. That was John. Yeah.
John got, yeah. I seen it, and it's a lovely looking little knife. You bought the buck with MagnaCut, John, didn't you?
I did.
What do you think of it so far? What do you think of it so far?
Great. I think it's great. The only problem I had with it was they kind of used a little bit of billboarding on it, and the slip wasn't that great. The quality of the slip. I think it was something that they had introduced for the first time, so their first run through making that kind of slip, they didn't do a great job. But otherwise, I thought it was a really nice knife.
Yeah, I did. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought, I was talking with you last week, John. We were talking after the show about, I might get one. And then I did have some extra money. We had a bonus come through, but I just didn't have enough for that knife to buy it outright. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I felt bad about it. But then when I started seeing the reviews, a lot of people were not over the moon about it. And so then I didn't feel bad so much about not getting one. Not that it's not a good knife or that it's something. It's just, for me, I think it was okay that I had to pass on it. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I was.
What sort of price range was it, John?
175.
175.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a little too steep for me at this time.
Yeah, that's only 800 of them made. And
right.
I think the more and more bucks going to probably be making the MagnaCut thing. So that 800 thing, that's not going to be that special in say 5 years, because they're going to be producing it left and right probably. So,
I do see that as being probably a custom shop option first,
exactly,
and then trickling out.
Just like they have with S30V now, they'll probably end up introducing that to the the custom shop.
Right.
Yeah, to be honest, I would say Buck in the next year or two will make all the knives S30 or S30V rather than the 420 Boss heat treated. I think the S30V is an easier option.
Yeah.
And there's more and more companies going away and going up to the higher steels because that's what sells knives. So the S30V is going to be a plentiful supply and be just as cheap. There's not that much difference between it now and 420.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that's a good thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I still like my carbon steels. It's the knives I use the most. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
it depends what they're doing with that. So like I did a video a while back. I did a lot of research for it. I went to steel manufacturers and priced the steel. And for those different steels, you're not talking about, except for a few of them, you're not talking about a big price difference. You're talking about maybe $7 difference. And I can remember seeing Mike Stewart, if you know who he is, designer. He designs Bark River knives, but he was a knife designer. And he did a video and he said, look, it only adds $7 to $10 for these super steels on a knife, And so he said, but the difference is it's a lot harder to work with. And that he was talking about why he likes to use A2 and D2 type of steels, not, tool steels over super premium steels.
Same as LT, right?
Yeah, but the problem is you look, and they're adding $200 to the knife just because it has, S35, ridiculous. Which is, that's an old steel now. And you're only adding like $7 to the price of the steel over the blade. Yeah. That's for real, right? So if you're buying the blank, you're only paying $7 to $10 more for that S35 VM blank than you are for a regular 1095 or A2 type steel, tool steel. And that's the problem with I have. The knife manufacturers are abusing that. They're jacking them prices way up.
But let's be honest, it's only us that's letting them abuse it, because so many knife lovers are buying them. If we stop doing it, they'll drop the price.
Exactly, and they're going to see what the market will bear. And I think what's funny, like when speaking about Buck specifically, when they did the 110 in MagnaCut, it flew off the shelves and was gone. This one, the Laren, I've probably gotten an email every single day of check these out, only a few left, come back and look at this again, and over and over. I don't think they're flying off the shelf as much as, like, say, the 110. So I think they're kind of gauging what they're the price versus the exclusivity and a couple other factors that are going to change how these things are marketed, how they're priced, how they come to the market, and what the actual price level is going to be. Because if they're having trouble getting rid of that batch of 800, then it's not going to be, the next one's probably going to be just a little bit more affordable. But we'll have to see what happens.
I think anything over $200, even now, with inflation, I consider those designer knives. And what I mean by that is it's like you want this knife because it's a beautiful picture, right? So that's why you're buying it. And I think that's okay. If you want to spend $500 because it's a beautiful picture, that's cool, right? That's first kind of cool. You're okay with that. But I think you need to understand there's no difference between that knife and a knife that's $140. This knife right here, the Deka at $150, I bought this for $150. It's unfreaking believable. And it's expensive. That's a lot of money for a knife, know. But you match that against the Bug Out at $500, it's crazy, right? There's no justification for a Bug Out being $500.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that once you get over 200, you're not getting anything much better as a knife at all. But on the other side is when I've got knives at 200, and say like this one would cost me on the secondary market, and I traded for it about £400. That's stupid money for a knife. That is a knife collector's price, because anybody out in the street will not pay £400 for this knife. And that's another reason why I think your expectation of you'll always get your money back is a really dangerous way to go into the knife hobby, because you won't always get your money back.
Well, that's true. We're definitely in a zone that's inflated right now, right? It's way higher. And I can quote you times in which knives ran for $500, and 5 years later they were $100. So these guys who are going out and who are buying these what are they? What I'm trying to think of, guys, the slip joints, GEC, right? So they're spending $500-$600 on these GECs. Man, this is so far away from the value of the knife. And it's inflated. It's like a stock market that is overpriced, housing market that's overpriced, and it comes from a lot of interest, right? There's a lot of interest. And so it drives the price up, and people feel they need to pay it, but you'll never get that money back. I mean, you look at cases, from the 1920s, highly collectible knives that aren't going for the same price as a GEC knife, and that's a warning sign right there. And it depends on the knife you're talking about. Custom knives like Michael Henry knives, those kind of knives, yeah, I mean, you're paying because it's a one of a kind thing, right? That's understandable. But
I could say something about the sellers of these people that are doing the GEC thing. They aren't knife enthusiasts. They're really just
No.
stumble upon it and use it to flip it and make money. And they don't have any
Yeah.
concern
that's
about
cool.
the market at all. They don't care.
yeah,
It's
That's
of no
right.
concern to them whatever.
But the other side of that is more for us for buying them. Now, I wouldn't, but I mean, GECs are about the right price now. They're averaging about, say, 150, and that's a good price for what is. It's not even a full handmade knife anymore. Do you know what I mean? But it is a well-made knife by a company, an American company. They're making it, and about 150 that's a fair price for me.
yeah.
I wouldn't pay any more than that. Anything more than that is stupid money.
Well,
Yeah.
to be honest with you,
Thanks,
I ordered the new one that was from Way North. I don't know if you've seen it, with a punch, the number 86. And it was £275. And I had to send it back because the fit and finish was not there. And it was no different in my eyes, other than the Way North on it, which is a Charlie Campagna company. Yep. It was no more than the ordinary 86 that they brought out with a different bone. This was white bone. Again, I wouldn't have cared what color it was. I was thinking it was a special knife, but it was no different than the ordinary 86 I've got there, and yet it was £100-odd dearer, and that's even companies like Way North inflating the price. There was no need for that price, and then they didn't even check the fit and finish, which is unusual for a GEC to have such bad fit. And I sent it straight back and bought myself a couple of different other knives that were much better priced.
Yeah. I mean, that's my problem with GEC is when I look at those knives, you get people, there's a mentality, right? There's a psychology to this. So I'm going to spend $500 on this knife, yet I have to say it's the greatest knife ever because I spent $500 on it. And it may not be, it may only be worth $150, right? But I spent $500 on this knife. But when I buy a knife, I take my lumps, and so sometimes I buy a knife and it's worth way more, and sometimes I buy a knife and it's not worth what I paid for it. And I've done a few videos on GEC. I really like GEC knives, but they're not perfect knives. They have flaws, and they're not really. They're not made in gold, and I don't think they're worth $300, $400, $500.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Well,
Stephen said it best. Like the $150 dollar mark is a perfect sort of price for them. Like when they're going up to like $300, $400, it's just clowns acting like clowns.
Oh, yeah.
You see that Way North I was talking about? They're actually going in the States now for $700. And I refused it because of the fit and finish at $275. I just wouldn't accept it because it's not different enough. It's nothing special to be $275 from the factory.
You start getting into those ranges, you can buy a truly valuable knife, a knife that does have the value that you're paying, like for a super rare old vintage knife. And when I say vintage, I mean truly vintage, like 1800s.
Like this.
Yeah.
No, not like that.
Like this.
I mean, like 1800s.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. You get like a real expensive one that's got tons of history on it.
I mean, if you buy some, I don't know, I can't even think of it off the top of my head. Some Wolstenholme or an old Robeson or something, with real value.
Yeah. An original Green River.
Look at this little one here.
Okay, let me bring it up.
I can't even see it.
Let me interrupt you before you start, Stephen. Real quick, we had a comment that Stuart, he was not familiar with Michael's channel, Rasputin's Castle, fantastic knife channel. If you guys enjoy traditional knives, you enjoy some history and just a really good time, definitely subscribe to his channel and check him out because it's well worth the price of admission. Go ahead, Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah, this is look at this little knife. And this was for you. This was for cutting your quills. That's all it was made for. It's in stag that is so well worn down now. But I mean, you can pick this up for 30, 40, 50 pound, whatever. And yet to me, the value in this knife for the history of knives, this is what a lot of, traditional knife makers should be looking to buy, as well as their more modern ones. But the value of this is outstanding for a knife that's a couple of 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the oldest GEC? 2006?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
That
Yeah,
gives you a
06
really good
or 07.
perspective. Really good perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The oldest ones aren't even 20 years old yet. So, I mean,
right. And I was
Here's-
looking on eBay, and they had the just the regular bullnose one. They had some guy listing it for like $495, and I was like, yeah, that's not going my way. That's for sure.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you look at this Rosecraft blade, that thing is special. You have a really unique jigging pattern. You have everything that a GEC has, and then you look at a GEC, knife, and it's pretty much normal, right? It's just a standard jigging pattern, and then you have this, which is unique. And that falls in line with what Stephen was talking about on his show Thursday, is you have to offer something, right? You have to offer something different. But I think what a lot of people don't realize about GEC is they start out at $140 price point. They're only about 10-20% above a case, right? And it's scalpers who are driving the prices up.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't fault GC at all. I think they're doing a great thing. It's just
I agree.
It's the people that buy them.
They're
They're buying them for all the wrong reasons. They're buying them to try to profit from them, right? Because they make a great product. And if we had more companies like GEC making knives like that, the problem kind of goes away, because now the demand can you have the supply to reach the demand, and then you don't have that inflation in price.
The solution is that quit buying GEC knives at overinflated prices.
Exactly.
Yes,
Even if you're investing, you are not going to hit it. I'm going to tell you right now, there is no way that knife is going to be worth $400 50, 60, 70 years from now. Maybe
not be that a year later. It'll not
maybe,
a year.
Yeah.
A year, and it'll be nowhere near that price.
Yeah.
It'll be back down to 170.
Yeah.
But
especially when the economy tanks.
Yeah.
Especially when the economy tanks.
Exactly.
When people don't have that disposable income, those prices are going to plummet, and I'm going to love it, because all them son of a guns, it's a family channel, right? All them son of a guns that are scalping people are going to get stung big time. They're going to lose a lot of money, and I can't wait.
Yes, I totally agree with what you're saying. That's for sure.
Here's an example as well. That same knife that he just... No, you don't need to bring it up, because it's the same knife. There's an example of doing a crest perfect for the knife that fits in with the size of the knife, the shape of the knife, and that's a brand new company doing that. That's perfect to me. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I'll just say the scalping thing, the whole idea, that concept, it's so widespread in so many hobbies, any kind of collectible,
every hobby,
it turns me off to the hobby in general when it gets too widespread. It really it has done so in other hobbies that I've been involved in, and so I hope that it doesn't become prevalent with the more affordable knives. That would really, really, I think, hurt my hobby. Go ahead, Steve.
I agree with you entirely, but I think the thing is, the knife business, if you like, is so much bigger than a lot of other hobbies. There's so many from all around the world, and there's always somebody going to bring out knives that are of a good quality that we can buy at a good price. You might have to hunt for them, but I mean, that's the joy sometimes, just hunting for something that's a good value. I enjoy that part of the hobby.
Oh yeah, That's a lot of fun, and that makes it so much fun when you're out there and you're looking for stuff, and you're finding those vintage knives, and you're finding good bargains on new knives or old knives. It just that's part of the hobby, you know.
That's
Will
the
you
best
take it over
part
here?
for me is looking.
Yeah, the hunt is definitely always going on, and it's fun. And I'm glad that Case is bringing back some of those patterns. You know, they finally they're listening to us. I don't know. We've talked about it on our channel, so hopefully they saw it here. But they're bringing back the Barlow as a production knife, and
Sow
that
belly
makes-
as well is coming back.
Sow belly, a couple of jackknives and stuff. That's really cool. I'm so happy that they are bringing those back, and that's going to be pretty exciting for this next year.
Yeah,
Yep, I'm
hopefully they'll
excited
be
for
sort of
the-
like
for the Barlow.
mainstays in their production rather than being like, oh, we'll bring them back for
Yeah.
a bit. Especially that the Barlow, that doesn't make any sense to me why it's not just a current model all the time.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think they listened to us, and I think they listened to the market, and that's a good thing, because I had missed the Barlow as a vault pattern, so I don't have a Case Barlow, and I'm excited that I'll actually have the opportunity to get a couple of them, when they come back in production.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty
I
nice.
managed to get the yellow sort of synthetic handle Barlow, but I'd
Uh-huh.
love to get some more of like the bone ones with like the carbon steel and things.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
But here's the
I
other
worry
thing.
about Case, and this is the reason right here. So this is a Chinese produced knife. It's perfect, right? There's I can't find any. I can nitpick this knife, but I can't find any real problem in this knife. And it's unusual. It's unique. And I wonder, I worry that Case is not doing what they need to do to compete against these Chinese who could easily, when you get a Civivi knife for $60 with a really nice Damascus steel in it, you know what I mean? And Case, like they put a Damascus blade out there, which was a great idea, but they're charging $285 for it.
Yeah,
Exactly the same as Boker. Boker are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to
You're
buy a
right.
Boker knife now.
Yeah.
They're
Well, I
overpriced.
think the other thing is Benchmade is doing that too.
Yeah.
And I think these larger knife manufacturers are trying to position themselves in the market to be a quote unquote premium maker. And, if you're going to charge premium prices, you better have a premium product.
There you go.
And if you're going to go that route, then that means your fit, finish, quality, materials, and everything else have to be at that level. You can't come at the market and say, we're going to give you the same stuff, but we're jacking up the price like Benchmade is. And I see stuff about Benchmade every single day, where people are like, that they have to be trolling us, because it's a G10 handle and, S30B, and they want $400 and something for it. It's like,
Yeah.
Who's going to pay that just because it says Benchmade on the side,
Well,
so
I think the problem with Benchmade is they have military and civilian contracts, right? Law enforcement contracts that are lucrative. And I think that's been a criticism of Benchmade for a long time, that they are not they're not really servicing you, Ron, or you, Stephen, right? They don't care, right?
right.
They're putting products out there, and recently they've upgraded their product line, but charge them $500 for a knife that is just like this Hogue knife, which is outstanding. This Hogue knife is outstanding. It's tough. It's durable. It's great. A great product. $150 price point. How do you?
And American made.
Yeah, but I mean, Bug Out, American made,
Yeah.
$500 for a Bug Out, right? It's ridiculous.
Personally, I think the Bug Out is awful. I
Thank
have
you.
one and I don't like it at all. I bought one when I was into like the modern stuff, and I wanted, like the latest steel and things. I've had it for about 4 years. I just don't like it. The handle like squeezes together and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice steel, but it's way overpriced for what it is.
Do you remember, Matt, when those first came out? They were like $75. They were less than the price point of the good knives, right?
Yeah.
And nothing's changed. It's the same knife, but they're charging $500.
But again, you look at the Benchmade 940. It's it's over 20-year-old knife, about 23-year-old. I think it's a brilliant knife. I have it, and I genuinely think the Benchmade 940 is a great working man's knife. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the classics.
Yeah, but they're putting the price way too up. I mean, it's dated now. It's 23 years old, and they're bringing it up to the same price as the modern knives. And I think that's silly. You'd get more people interested in Benchmade at taking 50 quid off it and selling it for 130, but putting it up to 170 for a basic one. Now you get a higher deal and you're into the 200s.
Right? They don't care, Stephen,
no.
because they've got lucrative. Okay, so like the Marine Corps, I'm a retired Marine. Marine Corps buys those knives. The military buys those knives. They're very, they have a good reputation. And I'm not saying it's not deserved, right? They're incredibly tough knives, okay? You buy that Benchmade knife, my neighbor has a Benchmade 20 years ago. He got in the Marine Corps, and that thing is solid, right? Solid. So they're definitely a rugged knife, but they're not worth $500 for the same knife that another knife, like a Chris Reeves knife. They don't compare. How do you compare a bug out to a Chris Reeves knife, right?
Right.
No comparison.
And this is the thing that it's not so much the companies now. You've got an awful lot of YouTubers who are now getting into knife design and then getting the design made in China, and they're it's being sold back here at a price that's usually more expensive than a Chris Reeve, who spent years building up a reputation and making a knife. All right, you don't necessarily have to like the knife, but in use and in every other aspect, it's a fantastic knife. But somebody in their first iteration of designing a knife on the back of a hanky, send it away. It comes back from China. They do all the extra work, and then they're charging $350 and upwards. Why are we buying knives? Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's psychology, right? Because there's a difference in price points. Okay, there's a difference. This cold steel, I paid $36. I had a guy comment on my channel. Yeah, I can get one for $9 with Rough Rider. Well, yeah, this there's no fault in this knife. Okay, I've got a few Rough Riders. They have a few problems, right? And there's another thing about Rough Riders is I'm not really convinced that you could go out and use them every day on the job and have them survive, right? So it is a little bit more, but the difference is, this is a Chinese-made knife. You can't make this knife in America or in Britain or in Germany or in France for that price. Right. And the Chinese are dumping knives across the world, right? There's no doubt about it. They're just dumping knives. They can't produce these knives for the price they're selling them.
Well, here's another thing is that the price of labor in China is going up. So they haven't moved them yet, but people are already talking about the next big manufacturing centers are going to be in Vietnam and in India.
I think
because their labor is low. So I'm just waiting because when I was a kid, and Japan was making most of the knives, and you heard about all the Japanese junk. And then,
Yeah.
then it all moved to China. Now it's Chinese junk, but the Japanese knives are like vintage and collectible and, supposedly way better quality. So when we go to Vietnam or India, is the Chinese going to be held on a pedestal then and say, wow, these are really good. They were really good. I wish they made them over in China still, so
yeah, it's just the circle of life thing, isn't it? I'll just go around in a big continuous loop.
yeah, exactly. So manufacturers are always going to be looking for where's the cheap labor pool, and that's where they're going to go. That kind of offshoring is not going to stop.
Well, here's the thing about the Chinese, though. It is unlike a normal manufacturer. The Chinese incorporate all the latest technology into producing their knives, so they are very high quality knives. There's no question about that. It blows me away, those Civivi knives, the quality on them for the price point that they're out there, right? And part of that is the mechanization and machinery, the CDC, the processes that they use. I'm not sure India will come up to that standard anytime soon. I don't think Indian knives are inferior. I'm just saying there is a quality level to mechanization, right?
Right. And we'll see what happens. This is all future speculation. So, I'm just offering my opinion.
For me, I really don't care where the knife's made, as long as they make a good product and it isn't total junk. I'm happy wherever it's come from. If it's a Pakistan-made knife, not bothered. Has it been made well? Yes, great. No, don't want it.
Yeah.
I couldn't care if it was made in like the little shed down the road. As long as they've done a good job, that's all I'm really happy about.
Yeah, so it's a crazy world, Matt, because on one hand, we're in a renaissance, right? At least in America, I'm really not the most versed person on England, but some of the best knives I have came from England. And in fact, I think the best knife I have was produced in Sheffield, and it was produced by one guy, and it's a near perfect knife, and it was only $236, right? And so it's a fantastic knife. And in America, you have this situation where these independent knife makers have been able to go to semi-custom. So you have a custom knife made in a factory with modern processes that produces almost a custom knife. Sometimes the production model is better than a custom knife.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of a weird situation. But the thing I worry about, Matt, and I'm with you, I don't care where they come from. If it's a good knife, it's a good knife. But I also worry about the industry, right? Because Sheffield almost died. They're coming back, right? They're coming back, definitely. They're producing some good knives. But in a limited fashion, and that's because of that pressure of manufacturers like the Chinese, who are there's no doubt they're dumping these knives. There is no way you can produce these knives with the price. A Civivi knife, I had the Civivi knife, Damascus steel, really high grade scale material, $60. There's no way they could produce it for that. Because they're paying shipment and everything else. They're dumping them on the market.
Do you not believe that the price, when you get the cheap Chinese ones like Civivi and they bring it over, they're not the ones they're looking to make money on. It's the ones that they're charging £400, £500 that the new yuppie knife person wants. They don't want the Civivi.
Like the Wii knives is what they're making the money on.
Yeah, it's a higher quality. That's just fodder. They're losing that money so that they can make money on the higher end, and they're doing it.
Right. So in you guys may not be aware of this, but but in the 19 or 1860s, oh man, like I'm not drinking coffee, okay? So it looks like coffee, but I'm not drinking coffee. So it's getting hard to tell. Put my mind together here. But in the 1860s, the British dumped knives below cost, okay? So they were shipping knives into America at below cost, less than it cost them to make them, to put an American manufacturer out of business, right? Because that American manufacturer was undermining them in a big way. At the time in the 1860s, in the 1800s, the British had 70% of the knife market in America. And so they felt comfortable in dumping these knives, put this guy out of business, which they did, by the way. And that's what the Chinese are doing now. So the Chinese are doing it now to put people out of business. They're dumping knives on the market to do away with the market. And
it's not a new economic concept. I mean, Amazon did the same thing. They operate at a loss, and they can sustain it because they have the capital to do it. And then once they put their competitor out, then they can raise their prices.
Exactly.
Yeah, but in America, you have a kind of a different attitude. So there's a lot of former military people in America because we have a large military, much larger than most European countries. And so you have that, tens of millions of former military people who know that communism is the enemy, and they don't want to buy Chinese knives. And so when these independent knife makers come to the forefront, they'll buy them, right? And they're okay with spending. I'm okay with spending, $300-400 for an American knife maker who's original, like Chris Reeve, and supporting them. And that's really the only thing that's kind of staving off that dumping of foreign knives in America. Probably in England too.
Well, I think in England or in the UK, I think that we got so low that, as you rightly said, we nearly lost all our knife makers. And I think we're starting from that scratch level again now, where you got companies like Arthur Wright and Taylor's Eyewitness are really starting a revival in the modern traditional knives, or just traditional full stop. And they're selling them at a price that's now reasonable to buy. And they're completely handmade from start to finish. By usually one person, or maybe one person and an apprentice in small shops. I mean, everybody knows I'm an Ashley Harrison. I found him a couple of years ago. And he makes these are handmade by him in the shop, one person. And it's an 01 tool steel. It's in whatever bone or whatever you got.
Snap in on that, RJ.
Yeah, let me bring it up because it's a good one. I love those.
This was my first custom knife that I got. Ashley, I told him what I wanted, and he designed this for me. Just it's got the easy open notch and whatever. He got a shield. He doesn't normally do shields, but I got that.
You there?
Really solid working knife, and these knives are under £150.
Yeah,
and the quality is fantastic. But this to me, I've got more of these than most knives in my collection now, because I'm going back to him for more, and I'm buying up the Arthur Wright, just a basic model, which is £38 here in the UK. It's actually cheaper in America to get this knife, by a couple of pounds. But I mean, these are fantastically made knives.
Yeah.
Fit and finish on the cheaper ones like this £38 one. The fit and finish sometimes it's not perfect. You'll get a bit of a gap or anything, but it's still a fantastic working knife. This is in C75 steel, which again does everything I needed to do. Super knife, lovely Barlow with the fat bolster on it. Or not the bolster. The handle itself is a nice fat, great grip. So we're starting to learn that, we have to make knives again to get into the game, but we have to keep the prices reasonable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the Chinese are going to beat you if you don't.
And another one over there is Twisted Assisted too.
Well, he buys he'll buy Chinese knives, like he'll buy knives that are made by Best Tech and things like that. What they do, they just sell them in a British formula, as in non-locking. So that's a different kettle of fish. But
he has got Sheffield main stuff coming.
So yeah, he's got. There will be this type of knife coming from Twisted Assisted. He's got to deal with them now, and they're going to be making knives for him, which is fantastic. I just think it's great that British companies are now starting to look ahead, get outside their box, and not just stick in the same rut. Because I think a lot of knife companies do get in a rut, and I think the highlights of it all is Benchmade, CRKT. I think they're in a rut. They're doing the same thing that was working 20 years ago, but it's just overpriced now, and it's not reality anymore. They're just putting silly prices on them. So I'm buying more and more British knives now, not because I'm British, but because I'm getting the value for the money. Do you know what I mean? To get a custom knife for £150 or £100, some of the cheaper ones. I mean, this is a beautiful custom knife, really, really stunning. And I mean, this was about £80.
Yeah, I got a couple about that price point from him.
Sorry?
I got a couple about that same price point, between like 70 and 90.
Exactly. And this is an absolutely fantastic knife. 01 tool steel. Beautiful. This is whiskey barrel. Easy opening. Beautiful bolster. Just the whole thing is just lovely. And under £100.
Yeah, so I think the best knives in the world right now are being made by, if you exclude custom knives, okay? Got to exclude custom knives. But if you exclude them, the British right now are producing some of the finest knives in the world for the price, right?
Yeah, for the price.
And I think the problem is, Stephen, that there's not a lot of outlets in America. Huge market, but not a lot of people marketing those English knives in America. And I think there's real opportunity for England if they want to expand on it. And there's a lot of guys, I can't think of them right now. You probably can, but there's a lot of guys in England making custom knives that are really doing super, super knives, right? And they just don't have a market. You know what I mean? Because England is basically the size of New Jersey. So if he could get an American marketer or market, that would just explode, I think, for him.
Well, here's one of the problems that just happened quite recently. Ashley made a lot of knives for a bloke in America that he bought boxes of knives. This fella took him to America and was charging 3 times the price. And that's just never going to work. Do you know what I mean? You have to be so careful. I mean, he learned his lesson. He'll not do that again. He's wary of doing that because of people are getting them, taking them over there, charging 3 times the price. Whereas he could sell them for 3 times the price if that's what he wanted to do, but he doesn't. Capitalism is capitalism. People are going to make money on whatever you're doing. You have to be so careful.
Did you want to show that knife, John? You ready?
I think this kind of touches the topic a little bit in the different direction. You talk about a knife not marketed well enough.
Yeah.
A company that didn't do enough advertising, in my opinion. Everybody knows of them if you're a long-time collector, but if you're a new-time collector, you may have never ever known that they exist. And now it's too late because now they're gone.
Yeah.
So this
is sad. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced they're out of business, but it is sad.
Original, I guess is the way to put it. But
surely some entrepreneur in America could buy them over and make money on them straight away.
Well, they have been bought, But
so this knife's basically the Arthur Wright and Sons of the USA. Kind of a really crude design, but got a really stiff pull and just reminds me a lot of in Arthur Wright. It's not
Yeah,
doesn't have all the flourishes, and some of the edges need a little going over, but overall quality pretty well made, and this
Yeah.
was a 30 to $35 knife. Never
Yeah.
knew existed.
I
American
think they're
made.
about £50 over here, John.
Yeah, so I mean it's a shame.
But I would still buy it because it's still a nice knife for even £50. I'd be happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna miss Ontario, but who is that, John? That bought them Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge just bought their inventory.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there is some talks about whether they're going to buy the equipment and the manufacture them and the whole spiel, but I think that's still kind of undecided at this point.
I hope they do. Right?
Yeah.
Because man, they just made some inexpensive knives that were just fantastic.
Yeah, we've talked about them in this show an awful lot recently. Even before we knew they were going out of business, they're a knife that are just fantastic quality knives for whether you want to go bushcrafting, butchery, kitchen knives. Their little paring knife is amazing. I still have it in my drawer and use it regular. It's a lovely knife.
Yeah.
And it was £20 or something. I mean, it wasn't dear at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, for all the people that cry about the Chinese knives and why aren't there American knives made? And then you have something like this where they have the opportunity to buy an American knife and
they don't.
They're only charging $30, $35 for it, and they go away. So it's just,
yeah.
It seems like
it's not only that, right? So, like I'm really deep in the history of knives, and it's unusual for a company to run 20 years. So when you have knife companies that run 70 years, you get family members who just aren't interested in, Ontario made money. There's no doubt about it. Okay. And they were making good money, but I think the family just got to the point where they were ready to pass it on to somebody else, And
I understand that.
It's unfortunate.
Came from a family where the business was a family business, and there became a point where the younger generation wasn't interested in taking.
That's what happened to Case.
Yeah. So like 1889, right? That's when they've been around.
Yeah.
So even longer than Buck, older than Buck.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to sort of double back on what I was talking about, the Chinese knives and the new designers that are coming in, American or wherever they're from, and they're getting knives made in China. I don't fault them at all. I really don't fault them for doing it, because they couldn't do it in their own, you can't do it in your own country, and you want to bring something that you want to make a profit on, because these people have families. I mean, they're American people. They've got families. Right. They want to make a profit. And the only way to do that is add it onto the knife that you get it made in China. And so I don't want to run them down, because that's part of life. If you want to make money for your family and that's the way you do it, absolutely, you've got my blessing. You do it. I mean, it's just a knife that I'm not going to pay that much money for most of the time.
Right.
I think unless we stop paying the money for the big Chinese companies, that's the only thing that's going to stop it. And that's impossible, because there's always people like me who are going to see a good one and think, oh, I want that.
Right.
It doesn't matter where it's from. If it's a really good knife, I'm going to have that. And it's like people started saying Russian. I've got one of my highest knives. Well, it's not highest in price wise, but it's a Russian designer knife. It's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Am I going to give it away because Russia are having a war? No.
Yeah.
Just not. It doesn't matter. If you're going to produce a good knife, you'll sell it. But there's so many that are overinflated, and the quality isn't as good as it should be for that price. That's the big fall. It's the quality's not as good for that price.
You also have to fault the manufacturer, because if you look at somebody like Benchmade, who has modern technology, modern processes, who could do a tremendous amount in the knife industry, and instead of undercutting Chinese, they're overpricing their knives by 50%, right? And so it has a lot to do with the manufacturer too, just getting greedy, and that's part of the corporate side of it. When you have a company like GEC that is privately owned, you know that guy, he came to the table and he said he had an idea. He wanted to make a good, high quality traditional knife. That's how they initially sold their knives, traditionally built. You know, and he has stuck to that. But other manufacturers, you know, get greedy, and I saw this in the auto industry in the United States because I'm 64 years old. And so, you know, I watch as the American share of the auto industry diminished, not because they couldn't make a good car, but because they weren't competing with the Japanese. And the Japanese started, you know, offering all of these extras in their cars. They weren't really undercutting the market. They were just producing a better car for less. And if you look at the auto industry in the United States, I mean, it's $50,000 for a truck. A truck is the cheapest vehicle to make, and they're just overpricing them, right? So when you know foreign companies come in, yeah, they're going to grab a bigger market share, you know, because they're just greedy. And so, you know, American corporations, sometimes they could be short-sighted, you know what I mean, in what they're doing. And I think that
you're right. Companies like Benchmade and ZT and whatever, they could easily make a really, really good knife for $100.
Yeah.
And that would cut out people wanting to buy Civivis at 70 if you've got a homemade knife for 100.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen to change that cycle. And there's nobody doing it that I know of.
Yeah, so they'll lose market share. That's what's happening. So there are, like, there's a hardcore line of people, like I mentioned before, that don't want to buy Chinese. But your average guy, your average kid growing up 20, 23 years old, he looks at a good knife and it's inexpensive and it's a good knife and he's going to buy it. So they're losing market share is what they're losing, and it's their own fault.
Yeah, it's funny when I go back to Ashley Harrison. I remember about 5 years ago, I put up a video about UK knife makers. Can anybody make a knife in the UK for under £100? You know, custom makers out there, can you make a knife for under £100? I get laughed at because that's not possible. And then ring on a few years later, Ashley Harrison comes along, does them for 70 to 150, depending on what you're getting. And he's making them after work. He actually has a job with, obviously, him and his father own Arthur Wright. So he's working during the day, goes into his workshop at night and makes his custom ones, which is why he can never get his books open, because he's that many orders. So, I mean, if he can do it on overtime, why can't the other custom makers? Because we have plenty of lovely custom makers here, and they could just drop some of the prices, get them into the market. The other thing the British are terrible at is advertising. They will not advertise, you know, globally. They'll just keep it in a wee small corner. I'm safe here, and that if they could just publicize and get them out there. It's sad, but saying that, it's not that sad because I'm now getting good knives where I wasn't before.
I've thought about that doing myself. I thought about being a distributor for some of those companies, those English companies, because I've just been blown away by the knives that they produce, right? And they just don't have the market in the United States.
This fella James is making a fortune now on what's he on?
James Brand, right?
Yeah, James Brand. What is it? What is
all
that?
about pocket knives.
All about
James and Company.
Knives, yeah,
James
I mean,
and Company.
he's all about pocket knives.
James and Company, which is different than the James Brand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's on all about pocket knives. It's one man. He imports them over from Arthur Wright, and then he sells them at a price that's the same price as we're selling them here in the UK. That's what, and he's now getting hundreds of people going to him, which is I hope he makes a fortune because he hasn't inflated the price. He's kept them at the price they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have it's expensive to ship stuff.
Yeah.
Without
So
a doubt.
he's managing to ship them and sell them in the States cheaper than what I can buy one in the UK. That's, to me, he's good. He deserves to make money.
I agree.
Because he must have a small percentage, and he hasn't tried to inflate it. Now, he's been doing it for about 2 or 3 years now, so fantastic. All power to him. I hope I push him now as well for people. If people in America ask me where can I buy one of those, I send them to him, not to a UK buyer. There, John got one. Yeah, John got one. A beautiful.
I've just put the link in the chat box if anyone's interested for All About Pocket Knives for James and
Show
Company.
that again, John. Show that again.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up large screen.
And what is that?
This is their tackler, and it's got the rosewood handle, sheep's foot blade.
And it's James brand.
This is
Arthur Wright.
James
Arthur Wright and Sons.
Arthur Wright.
Arthur Wright and Sons,
They
but
make
James and was it
James and Company? James and Company is the one that offers it on the website. All About Pocket Knives. Yeah. And I almost going back. I almost wish I didn't mention it because ever since I said that, Stephen, I go there when I have the money to buy one, and they're sold out because there's so many people buying them now.
But isn't that good? I mean, that's exciting.
I know
To
that's
me,
just
it's
selfish,
exciting.
but it's selfish. But yeah, I mean, I've missed out on probably 3 or 4 of them that I would have wanted.
You got to share the good stuff though.
Yeah, I got to share the love.
There you go. And if you can't get that one, then remember Rough Rider has this one in VG10.
Good luck.
There you go.
For under
That's
20
a cool
bucks.
looking knife. I've
You
never
bet.
seen that.
VG10 aluminum handles under 20 bucks. I mean, just an absolutely fantastic knife. They got a Stockman and a Trapper in this series also, but really,
like that.
really cool stuff.
Here's one that Michael will like. We were talking about fancy blade steels and all. Here's an Ashley Harrison one because I know Matt has the same version with a different color. Look at that beautiful knife.
Yes,
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Look at
Burl.
that beautiful knife. Matt, how much were these?
75.
£75 when he made them.
No way. And that's
That-
Burlwood?
Yeah, it's Burlwood. It's a green wood and it's dyed green as well to enhance it.
Yeah, mine's the brown wood, same blade though, like that Damascus. I believe he said it was VG10 Damascus off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
No, I can't. But look at that color inside that wood. That is just it actually moves. It's beautiful. Sorry,
I
I'm
love
not getting
Burlwood. My wife is out here smiling at me saying I've been doing this too long. So
Well, can you believe we've been here almost 2 hours, Michael?
Yeah, it's just
Does it seem like that?
There's my
wife
favorite
and
girl.
Janice.
Hello.
The
Hi.
best laugh in America.
Yep, absolutely.
Lovely to see you.
Y'all too.
You know them the Damascus blades are like $100 a blade.
Yeah, but that's
one of the
sold for
most
75. Now
Yeah.
they might be a wee bit dearer now, but that was a year or two ago.
Yeah, it was
But,
about a year ago, I think. It was a batch of 3, I think. Me, Paddy, and
Yeah.
Justin got the batch.
Look at that beautiful one there.
There you
That's
go.
an
Go ahead.
awesome EDC knife there.
This is the custom Ashley, and those are not easy to come by in the United States. The only reason I
No.
got one of these is because Matt sent it to me, but he has a matching one.
Yeah, I had a pair made up, one for me and one for John.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was
They also
awesome.
have silk underwear that matches.
Yeah,
I was
Do
gonna
we?
say, was this when they exchanged rings also?
Is that when you were spying through the window? You saw that, you little son of a gun. Yeah, but this is the Burlwood too, so I just got the brown. But yeah, they do a really good job on the Burlwood though.
Yeah. But I mean, it is that the hunt is the nice bit, is hunting somewhere that's going to sell you a knife. I get actually more pleasure. The cheaper the knife is, I get that's of a higher quality. I get more pleasure from that than I do walking into a shop and buying one at £400. And that's genuine. I have the deer ones. They're beautiful. I love them in my collection. but I have more pleasure getting my Ashley out and using it.
Yeah, look, this is I did that. I don't know. It was an open tag for best knives of the year. I got this after. Whoop, I got this after the I did the video. This is Ulery, Ulerry, Ulery.
Never heard.
Yeah, Nampioc made them, right? So it's a small company. Ulery.
All right.
But Nampioc made them. The company only ran from like 1916 to 1928, probably. And I got that recently for $25, and the guy sent me this knife, which is Elephant C. So that's a Lander Frary and Clark, another Equine knife, right? After I did the video on Equine knives, these things are just fantastic knives, man. Look at that.
And there's another shield that is beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bomb shield with kind of a spike on it. And both of them are collectible. This is really collectible. This Ulery, because Nampioc knives, because of how long they produce knives, you know, they just didn't produce them for a long time. And if you could, you know, that's ebony.
Yeah,
So
it looks beautiful.
But
I love ebony when you get the brown in it.
Yeah, $25 with the other one, with this one. The guy gave me a extra knife.
Nice.
Incredible. So yeah, I love the vintage knives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. More and more getting into them.
Yeah, they're so cool. Even Pete, Jersey Knife Guy, is now getting caught up in the vintage bug.
Yeah.
And he's looking for the old ones now too, and I think that's cool because he's really found some really nice ones. So
yeah, but the sad thing is he's probably paid very high money for the knives that he's got, and they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but it's the thing about an older knife, you know, an old traditional knife. I love them to have a bit of patina on them, a bit of use on them, because then it puts them more in that era. You're seeing a knife that's old, that's been used, and you're not frightened to use it yourself.
Yeah. It's so those knives I just showed you, they came to me that way. So somebody cleaned them up, but I showed them to you because you were talking about the hunt. And so that's a really exciting part about vintage knives. Yeah. Yesterday, I was looking for World War II Army Air Corps knives, right? So I've got a good collection of World War II knives, but these knives are just, they're kind of like cattle knives, right? But instead of the traditional cutting blade. What's that blade called? I can't think of it. Anyhow, I had a pin blade, right? And I put a bid in for it, but the knife went for $159. I didn't get it, but it's always exciting when you're hunting, right? And trying to get it.
Definitely. I'm going to leave you now. I'm very sorry I'm going to have to go. It's been absolutely wonderful meeting you, and I hope we get to speak again.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. Thank you, RJ and the boys. Fabulous chat tonight. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to leave you with this one that you'll like.
Oh, let me bring that up. I got to bring that up.
I just got this week.
Oh, my.
Look at that. This is a beautiful British bayonet from 1907, right? It's in absolutely mint condition.
Nice.
Look at that lovely wooden handle. Mint condition. And it's got all the stamps, the King's Crown and all on here for 1907. But the nice thing about it, all these knives used to have the name stamped in, whoever they were for.
Right.
And this knife, which is why I bought it, because I don't particularly collect these, but the name on it is Anderson, the same as myself. So I just couldn't resist buying it. I probably paid a bit more than what I should have done, because there isn't a sheath for it. But having my name on one of these old 1907, I just think that was too good to pass up. I'm never going to see that again.
Is that your birth year, Stephen?
No. Oh, here we go. Here's my birth year one, which is 1959. And this has been refurbished, but it's in absolutely mint condition. And I bought that because it was 1959. And they went on making these till what did they go? It was 19...
Was it 74, 75?
Well, I think it was 86 or something they actually were making them to. And I joined the Navy in 1977. And this was the sort of bayonet that I would have used in the rifle then myself. So that was the reason I bought that. Oh. So there you go. I shall leave you with that, my wee sword collection.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen, for sharing that. That was absolutely awesome. I'm very impressed with that.
Take care.
Alrighty. Good evening.
All right, take care, fellas. Bye-bye now.
See you next week, Patty.
Yes. All right. Yeah,
okay.
Hang on. This is the complicated bit.
It's okay.
Bye.
Bye. Official count, John?
About 7.5 seconds.
There you go. He's getting a little bit better. So there you go, Michael. There's a question for you up on the screen. Randy's WSG asked how many slip joints you have that are pre-1900s.
Oh, like I'd say 70%. I have over 660 slip joints, and probably 80% of them are not pre-1900s. Pre-1900s, I'd say maybe 100 of them.
Wow. That is impressive.
Yeah, I love the old stuff.
Yeah, I like to watch your channel because of that, for sure. How long have you been collecting knives, do you think?
Only 10 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I've loved knives all my life. I really, I'm trying to collect as much as I can. And, I'm 64, so I'm not going to last a whole lot longer. But I wish I would have started when I was that age, collecting these wonderful knives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. I've bought knives, all my life, off and on, as I wanted them, as I needed them. But I would not consider myself a serious kind of a collector till about 2 years ago, or actually right before I started the channel. YouTube, of course, helped with that a lot.
Well, I've done a lot of collecting. I like to collect old things. Doesn't matter what they are. I like old things. I have a pretty good collection of old firearms, cameras, all kinds of stuff. But the slip joint knives, man, I tell you, the variety is so great. It just captivates you. And it's one of the best collecting experiences I've ever had. If you're just looking at this and you're wondering about these slip joint knives, man, they'll just reach out and grab your heart and pull you in. That's all. That's the only way I can explain it. They just pull you in.
Can you put up a link to Michael's channel there, Matt?
Done.
Oh, thank you very much. It just hasn't come through on my screen. There we go. Yep, definitely. Anybody that's interested in traditional knives, in a awesome collection and a lot of good information, be sure to go visit Michael's channel over there at Rasputin's Castle, and you'll have a lot of fun over there. It's fun to explore and see all the videos that he has up and stuff. It's a lot of good stuff.
I enjoyed the time with you guys, and I'm gonna log out too here. I don't really know how to log out, but I'm gonna try to figure it out.
It's okay. We'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up here. and we'll help you off at the end of the broadcast here. Let me go ahead and sign off. Did you guys want to say anything, Matt or John?
Just see you next week.
All right.
And I don't like a vampire.
Thank you, everyone that's been with us the whole show, and thank you for anybody that's watching the playback. We appreciate you all, and we will see you next week on another one of RJ's Lives. Take it easy, guys, and have a good week.
Bye. Thanks again, guys.